Good afternoon, folks. This is Robert Chappell, Executive Editor of Madison365, with your daily update for Monday, the 19th of April. It is Monday. That means it is Metcalf's Monday. Metcalf's is a fourth generation family owned and operated market with stores in Madison, at Hilldale, and behind the West Town Mall, and in Wauwatosa at 68th and State. If you want to get to know Wisconsin cheese, and who wouldn't, Metcalf's is a great place to start. Lots and lots of Wisconsin cheeses to choose from, and a friendly team who will help you find just what you're looking for. And you can still order online for pickup or delivery anytime at shopmetcalfs.com. We appreciate Metcalf's support. Also, today, the update is brought to you by the Just Research Program. African Americans are all too often left out of health studies, which means that treatments are created based on what works for other groups, even when Black folks might be more at risk. So what we're saying is diabetes, sickle cell disease, that kind of thing, predominantly affect Black folks, but the medicines and treatments are usually tested on white people, right? This doesn't work. So this Just Research program at the University of Wisconsin-Madison is working to reshape how health studies are done so that they meet the needs of everybody. To do that, right now, they're asking for Black men and women aged 40 and older for their insights and thoughts about health studies through a short survey or interview. This is not a clinical trial of any medicine. This is a survey that will help them, allow you the opportunity to say, here's why I would or would not participate in a health study. If you're interested, it's a 10-minute online survey and then maybe an interview after that. You can call 608-709-9470 or email justresearch@ictr.wisc.edu, and we appreciate their support of the program today. Okay, so let's talk COVID news first, and then we'll get to some other local and national news. I want to lead with the COVID news today because it's actually good news. It's been a little while since we've had good news to share on the COVID situation. We're not. It's not. I'm not gonna say we won yet. But as I always like to say, you never want to look at one number or one day's worth of numbers in isolation. It's all about the trends, right? And for the first time in a month, more than a month, the trends since Friday have been moving in the right direction. So today we're actually at our positive test rate, which I've been harping for months that it needs to be below 3.0. All the way back in mid-March, March 14th, it got all the way down to 2.0. And then it started to crawl up and drift upward and upward and upward until middle of last week it hit 3.8% and kind of stuck there for a while. And then Friday it went down to 3.6. By Sunday it was down to 3.5, and today it's 3.4. Not a huge drop off, but it's going in the right direction. That's what I like to see. Now, also number of cases is down, which we typically see on Sundays and Mondays, just as fewer tests are reported and processed. So 518 new cases yesterday, 373 today. That's actually the smallest number of new cases we've seen in quite a while. We saw 402 last Monday. So 373 is low. It's only on 3,000 tests. Okay, so again, fewer tests reported, therefore fewer positive results. But still, to see that number come down is promising. Our number of active cases is now back down to 8,850. That was at like 9,200 at one point, which is still 1.5% of all the cases we've ever seen are currently active. A little bit higher than I would like that to be, but again, on its way down. Right. Now we also saw 8 fatalities reported on Saturday, which is a little higher for a Saturday, but then 2 were taken out of the data on Sunday, and then only 1 more reported today. So the average of deaths reported on a daily basis is still pretty low at 4. So that's good news. The other piece of good news is vaccinations. You remember for whatever reason, they didn't update the vaccination data on Friday. So we saw, as of yesterday, well over 100,000 new shots had been administered since Friday, over basically Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Um, it was actually more like 170,000. Like it was a lot. It was a big number, such that it was like 90,000 people got their first shot, and another 90,000 people completed their vaccination, which is great. Now today we're seeing a much smaller number just because it's Monday, and not as many shots are reported. Again, the reporting of the shots is delayed by a day or two after they actually happen. So there's not as much paperwork happening on Sundays. So Monday numbers look lower than they really are. But still, today we're seeing 10,000 more people have completed their shots. We're still, over 55,000 per day, which is really good news. We won't. We're still seeing variants, but we won't know more about that until Thursday is when we get our updates on variants. So overall, not terrible news on the vaccine front. The one thing we still need to see is more equitable vaccine distribution. Black and Latino people especially are really underrepresented in the vaccinations. There are significant and targeted efforts underway to chip away at those. That DHS, the Department of Health Services, put $6 million into a grant program for local nonprofits to make that happen. I've been talking to some folks. I'm aware that those programs are ramping up, but those take a little while to get going. Okay, so by into as we get into middle to end of May, we should start to see some of these disparities disappear. But it's the reason those disparities are there is because of access issues. It's just folks having a hard time getting to a place where vaccines are, and vaccine administrators and public health departments and healthcare providers having a hard time getting to the people where they're at. So it's not, you can't just do one or two things and it goes away. It's hard work. It's a big lift. And a lot of agencies and a lot of nonprofits are really trying to make that lift right now. So we should start to see those disparities chip away in the next month or so. All right, that is what I have for you on coronavirus, which continues to be a pandemic. Okay, this is good news. Does not mean that we should put our masks away and start having big indoor parties. Do not do that. Okay, we need to continue to do what we're doing, to keep our distance, to stay away from gatherings, especially indoor gatherings, to keep our masks on. I still don't think eating in restaurants is a great idea, that kind of thing. So that our public health departments can focus on vaccines distribution. Okay. So again, just because there's good news doesn't mean we relax. It means we double down and keep doing what we're doing so we can have more good news tomorrow and next week and next month until we get those vaccines all the way to 80% of the population. Right. Okay, we're going to take a short break. We're going to hear from our sponsor, UW Health, and then I'll have more local news for you right on the other side of this break. Be right back in 30 seconds. Do not scroll away.
Here in the Midwest, community is important.
Having a healthcare system that's looking out for us,
that's actively addressing the racial disparities in healthcare is important.
When we can get good quality care, we can do more. We can achieve more.
We can be the kind of community we want to be, and that's really important.
UW Health. Remarkable medicine. Remarkable care.
All right. In other news today, Black Oxygen this morning, I have been trying to get a chance to listen to it. I have not had a chance to listen to it yet. But I'm very excited about it, and I think you should listen to it because it is Dr. Kelly Hamilton, who's the first Black poet laureate of the state of Wisconsin. I was an English major back in the day, So I'm a poetry person. So I'm very excited to listen to this. Anywhere you get your podcasts, just search for Black Oxygen and you'll find it. Pops right up to the top of the list. Uh, Give it a listen and subscribe and get these amazing in-depth conversations with host Angela Russell and her guests every Monday. Um, Today, the chief of police and the mayor and some other folks held a press conference, basically in preparation for the verdict in the trial of Derek Chauvin. As you might be aware, in Minneapolis today, closing arguments were given in the trial of the police officer who killed George Floyd. And so the jury will get that case tomorrow, probably. And who knows? It's really impossible to guess how long the deliberation will take, and it's impossible to guess what the verdict will be. And no matter what the verdict is, there's likely to be some form of demonstration. There were big demonstrations in Madison, as you remember, last summer, in the weeks immediately following the death of George Floyd. Now, so the new police chief held this press conference today with the mayor. You can see that on the left, and Michael Johnson, Boys and Girls Club, there in the middle. Also speaking, other community leaders, including the Urban League of Greater Madison CEO Ruben Anthony, Renee Moe, who's the CEO of United Way of Dane County, and some other folks were there as well, but didn't speak. Alder Sherry Carter, the council president, spoke. And basically, what they're saying is even the police chief, acknowledged that the death of George Floyd was wrong, and that what Derek Chauvin did was wrong, and that it was not justice was not given on that day, and that I tried to pin him down on some specifics, and he didn't quite get as specific as I wanted him to, but he basically said we're going to try to do things better than we did last summer. You might remember there was a couple times when police really escalated the protests last year, and then shortly after that, sort of the first night of protests, the police kind of, I don't know, I want to say instigated, but escalated for sure. And then after that, they really took a hands-off approach. And I think that's what they're trying to do, and they're trying to communicate with community leaders and protest leaders ahead of time to try to keep the peace, I guess. They studiously, it was interesting, did not say the words peaceful protest. They didn't do that thing where they're trying to draw a line between peaceful protesters and rioters. They didn't do that. A lot of authorities have tried to do that, and they didn't, which is I thought pretty remarkable. But what they did do is ask both the police and members of the community to basically be cool and be calm and not get confrontational, not escalate, not get violent, that kind of thing. So they said they did say they didn't have any specific they have not seen any specific plans for protests, and it's hard to say because you don't know if this verdict is coming tomorrow or in 2 weeks. So there's nothing specific planned. But as I said, the police chief did say he wanted to do a better job this time, and that's part of this whole communication is part of that. And he also did say that they would only use tear gas and similar things like that as a last resort, which, last resort is a rather subjective thing. They used it last year. They didn't. They did, but the National Guard also used tear gas in situations that it probably wasn't necessary. But so we will see what happens. They're basically trying to be proactive. They didn't take a scolding tone, as sometimes authorities do. Like I said, they didn't do that. Peaceful protesters will be. We like peaceful protesters. It's those other ones we don't like. That's the tone they took last year. That's not the tone they took today, which is really interesting. So we will see what happens. I don't know. Also in the news today, there was a march over the weekend. About 150 people marched up to the Capitol, basically calling for unity among the various factions of protesters. There's a lot of different groups that have different agendas, not necessarily competing agendas, but differing agendas. And this march yesterday was basically calling for unity as we prepare for this verdict and as we continue to deal with the killing of Dante Wright and of Adam Toledo and other police, instances of police violence. The Women in Focus scholarships have been awarded, and I'm gonna I'm gonna grab this right here quick. Women in Focus Inc. is a nonprofit organization that provides scholarships for students of color specifically, and they had their virtual scholarship reception yesterday, and they handed out 18 scholarships to folks from all four Madison high schools plus Sun Prairie, and it's it's unfortunate that they usually do this in a big gala event of sorts, and they just can't do that yet this year. But again, Dave Dahmer has that story. If you go to Madison365.org right now, you can see all the names of everybody who earned those scholarships and will be heading off to college in the fall. In national news, the oldest person in the United States passed away on Saturday. Her name is, oh my gosh, Hester Ford. I was going to say Hazel Ford. Hester Ford. She was either 115 or 116, depending who you talk to, depending which census report was correct. This is a picture of her in 2016, 5 years ago, when she was only 110 or 111. The Gerontology Research Group verified her as the oldest living American in 2019. She died peacefully on Saturday. She was born in Lancaster, South Carolina on August 15th, 1904. Or maybe 1903, depending who you talk to. Sad news for her, but the new oldest living person is Thelma Sutcliffe, born in 1906. And the oldest person in the world is Kane Tanaka of Japan, who is now 118 years old. Quite remarkable. That is all the news I have for you today. I hope you had a wonderful weekend, and I hope you'll have a nice evening tonight. We'll be back tomorrow with more news. We'll have the It's Only 10 Minutes podcast in the morning. We'll kind of recap that press conference and some other information about the police preparation for any protests. We'll recap the closing arguments in the Derek Chauvin trial. And we'll have other news, local and national news for you, as well as all the latest COVID updates. Tomorrow, in the It's Only 10 Minutes podcast, all day long on Madison365.org and all of our social channels on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And I'll be back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock to catch you up to speed again. Have a wonderful evening and take care.
This is 365 Media.